Thank you for joining me. I'm Scott Ryan. Everybody's talking about the budget deal. Well, I think a lot of people are coming to the realization that, as Jefferson said, if people want to be ignorant and free, they want what never was and never will be. What we have seen here, and I was listening to Glenn Beck's show this morning, and they were talking about the paradox or the dichotomy between what people believe in regard to the current tax policy and the fact that most of them are vehemently against, or at least say in polls they do not support the current tax policy that Obama's been pushing, yet they support Barack Obama. So you have a situation, as Jefferson warned, where these people have no idea what the hell they voted for. It is nothing but a cult of personality. And we are not going to be free. It should be lucid at this point that we are at a place right now where our nation is being hijacked by millions of people, well, those 30 and under, and single women who have voted overwhelmingly for this would-be tyrant at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. They have no idea what he stands for. They never knew, and they will not know until they find themselves enslaved. We are seeing people who are... It used to be that people didn't listen to Hollywood celebrities and musicians. You know, they're running all these commercials now. They're running commercials, the very people who are poisoning the minds of our youth with just gratuitous violence and murder, which they portray in their movies. They are standing up to take away your rights to bear arms. They are vehemently against the guns, but they are all for portraying people and glorifying people who murder with guns. The biggest hypocrites. But it used to be that people didn't pay attention to these Hollywood idiots. It used to be, up until this past decade, that nobody listened to what these people had to say, and for good reason. They're whack jobs, people who really crave attention and crave worship. Their dream is to be a star, to be worshipped on a pedestal for pretending to be somebody they're not, for being good at doing that. So their activities in political races, campaigns, were always ignored heretofore. Now we have a culture, as Dostoevsky once predicted, first art would imitate life, then life would imitate art, until eventually people find their very meaning of existence from the arts. And that's what we've come to. We are in a culture now where the only thing that people know, these people who voted for Obama, they know nothing. They know nothing. I mean, they might be able to talk about hope and change, but they don't know what the hell that means. And they won't know what it means until they find themselves in the position that the Soviets found themselves, when they find that there's nothing on the shelves to buy because the companies that they drove out of business through their unions are no longer around, because there's no motivation for them to endure the crap that they've endured from these very people. When they realize there's nothing on the shelves to buy, when they realize there's nothing on the TV or the movies to entertain their skulls full of mush, as Franklin once said, because there's no profit motive for anyone to produce these great pieces of work to which they were accustomed, then they're going to realize what they just voted for. They're going to realize what the hope and change was. They're going to realize when they're like the Soviets, eating borscht for lunch, breakfast, and borscht for dinner, and trying to find all the different ways that they can make borscht taste, because there's really nothing left to eat, because nobody's doing anything to make these products. There's no reason for anyone to make these products. Then they're going to understand the implications, and by then it'll be too late. I mean, this guy, these ignominious, I mean, they're flat out evil. I'm tired of saying that, oh, they want the same, the Democrats want the same outcome. We just have different ways. We have disagreements about how to accomplish them. It's not. We don't want the same thing. These Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, Barack Obama, Chuck Schumer, and what's that despicable Wasserman Schultz here in Florida. These are evil freaking people. These are like the evil. There's a reason why communism is called evil. There's a reason why the Soviet Union was called the evil empire, because communism is evil. It emanates from an evil worldview. It is forced upon people by those who believe they are elites, that do not believe in the principles of the Declaration of Independence. They do not believe in equality. They believe they are superior. They believe you are an animal. You are the scaffold, as Nietzsche said. You exist to prop them up on their backs, on your back. You exist for them, to serve them. And in their arrogant, evil, despicable minds, that is exactly what you are, and that is exactly what you will be. And they will take everything from you, and you will live to serve them. They don't care about the abject misery in which you're going to live. And they are so good at their evil. They are so good at manipulating and using pop culture to serve their purposes, to sell this bullshit. Oh yeah, they're good at it. And that is exactly what we're seeing right now. We're seeing people being deceived. We are seeing people celebrating their own slavery. It is so ironic. It is so ironic that 94% of African Americans support this evil party. And every fundamental concept that is behind their policies, they are championing the same exact principles that justifies slavery, that rationalize slavery. It has to be in a skewed worldview, and that skewed worldview is their view of Darwinism, their survival of the fittest. If we have all evolved, then it stands to reason that certain races can be superior to others. And this is the way they believe, and this is why they believe they are destined to rule over us. And that we are to live in misery except for their friends whom they can use. They're useful idiots. They will give what Obama calls waivers. We've already seen it. People apply for waivers. Obama's friends who gave him money apply for waivers. Not everybody is forced to live by the evil system that he's promulgated. I mean, the majority will, but there will be the few elite who are, at least for now, able to serve his purpose by brainwashing you people into voting for him, into supporting your own enslavement. If you used basic sense, you would see this. As John Adams said, and I'm going to post this, I was looking in 2008, in September 2008, I wrote a piece called It's the Morality Stupid. I'm going to post this at tableofwisdom.com. I think it's timely right now. It was before, of course, the November election, before his first term, so I'm referring to the Obama campaign there. But I had quoted, of course, John Adams' statement that this form of government is for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. And there's a reason. For the same reason that guns are neither good nor evil, but we have a right to protect ourselves with them. It depends on the person who's holding them. And the same can be said of capitalism. I don't believe that greed is good. I believe that capitalism is the corollary to this form of government, to freedom. It's the natural state that God intended for us. But just as Adam said that capitalism, or that this Constitution, a free government, a free nation, only works for a moral and religious people, it is because people cannot handle freedom if they're given over to depravity. Once a nation becomes immoral, it turns into a disaster. It turns violent, and ultimately to despotism, temporarily preceded by anarchy, as in the French Revolution. That was the difference between our revolution and the French Revolution, as Adams and Hamilton warned well in advance. And I believe the same is of capitalism. Guns are great. We all have a right to them. And it worked for the first 200 years of this nation. And we're seeing the place where now dictators are making arguments and successfully preying on the emotions of people because they see the damage that is increasingly being caused by people more and more so by abusing freedom. Capitalism, as we've seen, you can't trust the earnings statements, the income statements of public corporations any more than you can trust the politicians. Because immoral people abuse if they don't believe in God, if they don't have any sense of morality, any sense of eternal rewards and punishment, then why shouldn't they, in their minds? This is the more prevalent way of thinking. Why shouldn't I take advantage of other people? Their philosophy is, well, these people would have been ripped off by someone else, if not me, because they're suckers. That's the economic Darwinism. And that is not what America was about. But that's what it's becoming about. The more depraved we become as a nation, the more incapable we are of freedom. And we will be given despotism. And the same is true of capitalism. And this notion that greed is not good. But what's even worse than greed is communism. When you have a government, when you have people taking away other people's liberty, arrogant, evil people imposing their will on others and enslaving them, that's even worse. But what we are seeing is a punishment brought on by ourselves. The more wicked we become as a society, the less we can handle capitalism, the less we can handle freedom. And that's where the danger comes. And that's really what it comes down to, is we are going to have to coalesce in a number of states. I've been saying this for the past year, fervently. Sorry, the country's far gone. You can't depend on anything that you used to depend upon. If you think that you're going to win this thing in the minds of the youth, they're gone. You can start with the babies now, the ones right now. You can raise your children, but generations have been raised without fathers, without parents, in broken homes, and have been inculcated by MTV, indoctrinated by the government in public schools from the cradle all the way through the universities. They are so far gone. This country will be far gone. You will be in chains before those kids grow up. So the only thing left to do right now is to coalesce in a number of southern God-fearing states and say we're going to live by the Constitution. We don't want civil war, but we're going to obey the Constitution. And when the federal government encroaches it, the state legislatures are going to intercede. You cannot bow to their idols, but we can't do this when we're spread apart. If you're living in a blue state, you've got to get out of. You need to flee Sodom. You need to come and further support these southern states. We need to coalesce. There's power in numbers. We need to stack these legislatures even more, these state legislatures. The state in which you live is of paramount importance. And if you think you're going to just live the rest of your life in the blue state as you used to, it isn't going to happen. They're coming. Thank you for joining me. I'm Scott Ryan.